Hey guys, what's up? So today we are going to be doing another computer build. This is going to be a full in-depth guide. I apologize for the onboard audio. Mic broke, so we don't have one. So this is using mainly recycled parts or parts that I already had laying around. So let's get right into it. So first we are going to want to grab the motherboard and the CPU. So let's grab those. Alright, so while we're looking at the part list right now, I just wanted to mention that this video was filmed a very long time ago and I just never got around to uploading it. This was filmed before any of my other videos and I did not even have a tripod at this point. This was a really long time ago, so I apologize for how bad the video is, but I just wanted to upload it, so I had something to upload, and there will be more content coming as summertime is rolling around. I have a bunch of new videos planned and they are all very good and a lot better quality than this one. So thank you guys for watching. I recommend you watch the whole video if you're looking to build a computer right now, because it's still good information, but thank you for watching. Also, if you are looking to build a build similar to this, the build comes out to around $700 minus the case. I just threw in an NZXT H510 as a basic case, because obviously the case in this is an old recycled CyberPower case that I had lying around, but that does not include the cost of the video card. These video cards are so hard to find now, and also the price of the 8600K is a little bit inflated and you can find them for a lot cheaper. Alright, so for our motherboard we have the B365M from Azeroth. It is a fairly budget board, so that's kind of the scheme we're going for with it. Intel based, which is probably the main thing with their LGM 151 socket. So you're going to want to take your motherboard out and you're going to want to leave it on the box. And now we want to grab our CPU. So the CPU I have is an i5-8600K. Now I chose this because I had it lying around, but it's also very good, 6 cores, multi-threading, so we should be good with that. So now you want to take your motherboard out of the anti-static, but you want to be very careful when picking it up. If yours has foam on the back, you can just leave that on there for now. And there you go. Alright, so now that you have your motherboard out, you want to undo the CPU latch and bring the thing up. Now you want to look for the triangle that should be in either the bottom left corner of the CPU socket. Next you want to grab your CPU. Mine is the i5-8600K. Decent budget one on the Intel side. You want to lightly drop it in there. You don't want to press on it or anything. Just lightly drop the CPU into the socket. And then next, you want to close it, making sure that it goes under the little screw that's right there. This should pop off and your CPU should be in. Alright, so for almost all motherboards, you are going to be using the 2nd and the 4th DIMM, just so you have dual channel memory. So what you want to do is you want to undo the latches at the top, and depending on your motherboard you may or may not have latches at the bottom. Then you want to grab your RAM and you want to put it in. Now it can only go in one way, so do not worry, because if you flip it around the other way it will not go in. But you want to put it in there and apply even pressure to both sides until it clicks. So now it's clicked in and it's gone in there. And you want to do the same thing for the 4th channel. So you hear the click and it's in. So now your RAM is installed. Right, so now you want to find your M.2 screw if you have one, which for me there comes with 3 of them and 1 standoff. And now that you have your M.2, you want to figure out where your M.2 is going. Now for my board, I have 1 M.2 slot there and 1 in there. I'm going to be putting mine in here just so it has the heatsink over it, just so it looks cleaner overall. You can do whichever you want, but that is what I'm doing here. So I'm going to unscrew this with a screwdriver. Alright, so now you want to grab your M.2, and I've already taken the heatsink off, like I said, and you want to grab your M.2 and slide it in there. Whoops. Now, I recommend building a computer with 2 hands, not just one. That's a great idea, so I would recommend that. Next, you want to grab the heatsink, and you want to make sure that you pull off this plastic layer covering the thermal pad, because obviously you don't want to have this plastic stuff rubbing straight up against your M.2. Alright, so now that you've finished with your motherboard, what you want to do is you want to grab your I/O shield and your case. Alright, so now you want to take this part that has the rim around it, and you want to put it from the inside of the case, and you want to apply even pressure around it until it snaps into place. Alright, so now that you've got it fully situated in there, you want to check your case for the motherboard standoffs. So depending on what type of case you have and the size of your motherboard, you are going to see some standoffs. So for example, there's one right there, there's one right there, one right there, one right there. Now on a mini or micro ATX board, you are normally going to have 2 across the top, 2 in the middle right here, and then 2 at the bottom. But it can change depending on what type of motherboard you have. So now you're going to need to find the screws that go with your case and your motherboard so you can put it in. So what you want to do is you want to grab the motherboard and you want to gently just put it in here so that it lines up not only with, you want to make sure it lines up with the I/O shield in the back, and then the standoffs in your case. Alright guys, I'm in the middle of editing right now, and I just watched these clips, and this is absolutely atrocious. I want to get this video up because I do not have the resources to build another computer right now, and I think it will be a useful and extra thing for my channel, so I'm still going to upload it. But if you've made it this far, I'm going to throw a Microsoft gift card up on the screen. First person that gets it, gets it. It is not going to be a ton, but it will be something, so you'll have to check it out and see if you get it. I apologize if you don't, but thank you so much for getting this far in the video, as it is absolutely atrocious. Alright, so when you're tightening the motherboard screws, you want to first lightly install all of them, and then you want to go back and tighten them down. Now you don't want to tighten them all of the way first before going back around, because you might accidentally over tighten. Now when you're tightening these, you want to make them hand tight, so you don't want to have to get out the screwdriver, and they shouldn't be overly tight, but you know, your motherboard shouldn't be moving around at all. It's really not the point. Now the reason I went with this motherboard was mainly because of the price. They had it at Micro Center for a very good price, and it also has a decent bit of features with the 2 M.2 slots that it has, which is something I was looking for. Now you want to try and get an M.2 if you can, just because it will really increase the boot speeds if you have it as your boot drive. I would also recommend, if you can't get one, just get a regular SSD at least. Now we have a 500 gig one, but you can go even less just for making it your boot drive. Alright, so now that we have all of the screws in, you are going to want to next grab your CPU cooler and your thermal paste. Alright, so next you need your cooler, which I'm just using the Intel stock cooler, and your thermal paste, which I'm just using some of Corsair's because I'm a huge Corsair fan. Now with the Intel stock cooler, you want to make sure that all of the little arrows are pointed away, or as turned out as far as possible, which will optimize them for installation. Alright, so now what you're going to do is you're going to grab your thermal paste and you are going to put it on your CPU. Now you don't need a ton of this stuff, but you also don't want to put any. So what I normally just do is you just want to cross, and then I just normally spread it out. This is some, oh wait, this is chunky thermal paste. I just do a normal little cross, and then I normally spread it out with the tip. Normally you can just do a little. If you have a spreader, crap, that is way too much thermal paste actually. You do not need that much. I got a little bit happy and now I can't find the cap, so I'm kind of freaking out right now. Alright, so now that you have way too much thermal paste, you're going to run to the bathroom and grab a paper towel. Alright, so now that we're back, I'm going to take off some of the thermal paste because there is way too much there for my liking. Alright, so now that you have completely messed up your thermal paste installation, now you're going to figure out the orientation that you want your cooler. Now, normally you might say, well, I want the Intel logo facing up, but you might not be able to do that because of your cable. So what you want to do is you want to rotate it until you have the ability to plug in your CPU fan, which it should be labeled at the top here. That gets just connected right into there. Alright, so now that you've done that, what you want to do next is you want to push down on all of your until they click on all of the pins in the corner if you're using the Intel stock cooler, until they connect, and then you want to rotate them in, and that should lock them in place if you've pressed them down hard enough. Hard drive. Alright, so now we're installing the hard drive. I have a 2 terabyte C8 one. 2 terabytes is plenty. 1 terabyte you can get away with in this budget builds, but I mean, it never hurts to have more storage, now does it? Alright, so the most important part is the one. I'm just kidding. So now you want to find and go into the back of your case, and in my case here, we have 2 drive bays for 3.5 inch, and then we also have 2 for SSD. But you want to grab your, which is the bigger one, your hard drive cage. So there should be 1 or 2. They might come in a thing like this. They might be in the back of your case from here, depending on what type of case you have. But you want to take it out, and it should slide right out. And then you want to take I have no clue what this looks like right now. Alright, so now once you've done that, you want to put it into place. Now, normally on the side, you should see where there is a little insert. So, and you will see on the side of your hard drive you have 3. So you want to line them up and make sure that the part that has the connections, which should just be a SATA connector and SATA power, is on the inside of your case, because you're not going to be able to fit a cable back there. So then, you just want to find where the hole is, and drop it into place. So this one should just be right about there. and it should slide right into place, and then it shouldn't fall out. Alright, so then you're going to get your case, and you are going to just slide it back in till it clicks. And your hard drive is now halfway installed. Next, we're going to move on to the power supply. So, you want to grab your power supply. Mine's just a Seasonic, I think it's 550 watts. Actually, it's 430. And you want to put it in so that the cables are going, obviously, towards the inside of your case. And the most important part is that your fan is facing down. You do not want to have your fan facing up and blowing into your case. You want to have it as there should be an exhaust right under it. So then you want to just slide your power supply in. And there should be holes on the back of your case that should match up. So as you can see, you have a hole right there, right there, right there, and right there. And then you want to screw that into place. Alright, so now we are going to install the first cable. So you have probably a mess of cables if you don't have a modular power supply. If you do, you're lucky, and you can plug them into the power supply as we go. So you want to try and stay as organized here, because obviously this can be a mess with all these little snakes hanging around. But you want to find the 24 pin, which should be the biggest one. It should look like this. It should have 24 pins, and it should be exceptionally big and long. Now, depending on your case and what type of motherboard, you're going to do this differently, but just try to do what makes sense. So for us, we're going to be routing the cable to the middle hole and around. So, on the other side, as you can see, our cable is coming through right here. So we want to grab it and plug it in to the big and long connector that is right there. Okay? So, what you're gonna do is you're gonna grab the cable, you're going to pull it through, and then you are going to obviously wrap it around, and then just plug it in. Now, this cable is the cable that gives the majority of the power to your system, and you want to make sure you push it in until it clicks. Now, when you're plugging in the cables, you want to make sure you're pushing in everything until you hear a clicking noise of some sort, and you don't want to push in hard enough to break the motherboard, but you need to push in with some pressure. Alright, so now the next cable that you're going to want to grab is going to be this cable. So this is your USB cable, and it should be coming from your case if your case has two USB 3s in the front, or just USBs in general. And you want to try to route this through the exact same hole, if you can, that you just routed the 24 pin through. Alright, so now this cable goes right below the 24 pin. So you want to make sure that it's coming through below the 24 pin. And it goes in this hole right under the 24 pin. Alright, so now that you have that cable in, the next cable that we are going to find is going to be your 8 or 4 pin cable. Now this is going to be for your CPU power, and it should be an 8 or a 4 pin depending on your motherboard. But it goes in your top left of your motherboard. You should see a spot for it right above the heatsink there. So that is where you want to plug it into. Alright, and now we're going to be grabbing the SATA power cable, which looks like this. It's kind of a longer flat one, and you are going to be plugging it into your hard drive. And it's in. Now, you want to grab your SATA cable, and this one should have a metal pin. You want to plug it in next to where you just plugged in the SATA power. Alright, next what you want to do is you want to take the cables that are coming from your case, and you want to find these specific cables. You need your audio cable, which should be a 9-pin. You want to then find your power LED, both the positive and negative, if I can. These both should be very tiny M1 pins. Then you want to find your HD LED, your power switch, and your reset switch. And all of these you want to put through one of the cable grouts and bring it to the front and bottom of the case. Alright, so now that you have all the cables through, first we want to find the HD audio. Now this one is going to be a bigger one than the other ones. It's going to be a 9-pin, and it should say HD audio, probably most likely on the far left of your motherboard. So for me, that's right there, and you just want to bring that around and plug it in. Next, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking the SATA cable and plugging it into our SATA port. Now, it doesn't matter which one you plug it into, just if you have a 6 gigabit SATA port, you want to try to be plugging it into that, if you can. You should just go right there. Now you want to find all of the little cables that are all 1 or 2 pin, and you want to take your manual and you want to find the page that has the onboard headers and connections. This will tell you where it needs all of them to go. Now this one's normally on the right side of the motherboard, but obviously it can change, so make sure to check your manual. Alright, so now that you have them all plugged into the right spot, you want to come from the back of the case and pull them lightly just to get them somewhat tight and make it looking clean. Now, once you have done that, what you want to do is you're going to want a cable tie or just a zip tie. They're basically the same thing and they work the same way. And you're going to want to zip tie those if you do not have a Wi-Fi card. Now, we have a Wi-Fi card here, and this is just one from MSI, and it has a USB. So we are going to plug that into one of the USB headers on our motherboard, and then we are going to route it back around to it. So this card will just go right here in one of our PCI Express slots, and it's going to come down and back around. Now, it's optional if you want to include this in your cable tie. Just be aware that you can, and don't zip tie it yet. But for me, it doesn't really matter. So, you're going to grab a zip tie or cable tie, and you are just going to zip tie it together and make sure that they're all in there and it's looking clean. Now grab scissors and snip that off. Alright, the next step that we're going to be doing is we are going to be plugging in our fans. Now my fans came pre-installed on the computer. If yours didn't, you're going to want to screw them in. And you're going to want to find the long screws that either came with your case or that came with your fans, and you're going to want to screw them into the holes that they should go in. It should be pretty simple. I'm not going to go over that, but if you do need that, please make sure to comment and let me know. So now we have our fans RGB connectors, and mine are Molex because they're not that great, and we are going to be dealing with those. So first things first, for me, I have my Molex connectors from my power supply, and I am going to plug the fan into there. Alright, so next we are going to be moving on onto the GPU and to the Wi-Fi card if you have one. So first what you want to do is you want to look and see where your PCI brackets are, and you need to take them off in the correct spots so that your I/O can go through to the back. So how you're going to do this is you might have screws that go in here, and you might have to unscrew it depending on the case, or you just have to bend this piece back and pull it out. So like for me, I just have to bend it and push it out. But if you have a little bit of a nicer case, then you might actually just be able to screw yours out. Alright, so now what you're going to want to do is, depending on if it's a PCI Express with 16 or if it's just less than that, you're going to want to find the right slot. So obviously it's not a 16 card, so we just need to find right here. And what you're going to do is you're going to line it up with and then you just push it, and you push it in normally until you hear a click, and then it should look like it goes in. And then you want to grab your screw and your screwdriver and screw it into place. Alright, so now that we have it plugged in, now we need to find the USB headers on our motherboard and plug it right into there. Alright, so now that it's in there, we can cable manage it. Now for this, we're probably just going to zip tie it back to here because there isn't much that we can do. I'm going to feed it through to the back of the case and then zip tie all of these now together here. Alright, so now that we're done with that, and the next thing is the GPU, we are going to start peeling some of the plastic off. Alright, so now you want to grab your GPU. Now the GPU I have is a 5700 XT. It's a very good mid-range GPU, especially right now with all the GPUs skyrocketing in price, which is kind of crazy. But now, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to flip it upside down so that the fan is at the bottom, or if you have not a blower style card and you have more than one fan, the fans are going to be at the bottom, and you are going to place it in like so. Now before you do that, you're going to want to undo this latch that should be on the right side of the PCI Express brackets, and you're just going to want to get your card and push it in there until you hear it click. Once you hear that click, you should be good. Now what you want to do is you want to grab your power cables and bring them around and plug them in. Alright, now the boot. 3, 2, 1. That looks successful to me. Alright, so now we just have to install Windows and plug it up to a monitor and hope that there's no errors.